It's the Church Solutions Podcast, and you know that because that's just what our announcer said. My name is Phil Thompson.
And I'm Steve Lacy.
I'm Mike Gray.
Thanks, Mike. Wake up, Mike. Good to be with you again. Thanks for being here, Mike. His second time in a
Great
row.
to be here.
Yeah.
Second time in a row. Oh
I
my
think
gosh.
so. Yeah, good deal. All right. Hey, and thank you, folks, for listening or watching, depending on what platform you're on. We've been doing this for many moons. And today we're going to talk about ways to appreciate your volunteers. But before we do that, the Church Solutions Podcast is sponsored by, wait for it,
The letter R.
the letter R.
R.
It's Steve made a joke. All right. Somebody, we got that on tape. All right, good. It's sponsored by mychurchdaily.com. Go to mychurchdaily.com and find out how you can have a flash briefing on an Amazon Echo device. I don't think I can say what it is because I have my little deal here and it's on. And if I say Alexa, it will go off. But you could have your deal on Alexa using mychurchdaily.com, your flash briefing, and you could connect with your people. And we have a 14-day free trial. And, when we're done here, go to mychurchdaily.com. Sound good?
Yes, sounds good. I attended the developer conference of Alexa yesterday. I had to turn off my Alexa here in my office because they were saying that word quite a bit.
How was it? How was the conference that you went to?
It was good. I mean, they definitely have visions of it becoming better and better.
Good.
Is the way they would put it, but it's just going to be more interactive. It's going to start acting like Rosie the robot for you a little bit, where it's more context sensitive and that sort of thing. So continually improving.
Good. And we are too. All right. So today we want to talk about ways to appreciate your volunteers. We've invited Michael Gray with us because he has overseen volunteers for years. I've been a volunteer and also overseen volunteers. And Steve Lacy has been a volunteer all his life. Steve, how long have you been volunteering for local churches?
I guess since my adult life, which I guess I credit adult life as post college. So when you're out in the working world,
all right,
the real job.
All right. Well, look, volunteers. I mean, anybody listening to this podcast, and many people are volunteers that listen to this podcast because we serve churches and ministries. You guys are the lifeblood of a church organization. And it's so important that what you do. And now that we're kind of many states coming out of this vaccine or coming out of COVID-19 because of the vaccine, more and more people are getting back to church and volunteers are starting to get involved. So I want to share a little bit this morning about some ways. We've got 10 here. 10 ways that you can appreciate your volunteers. And this is so important because now Steve, and I'm kind of the same way, and I think Mike is kind of the same way too. We just kind of plug away. If we're in a volunteer role, we just plug away. And there's people like that they just plug away and they don't care. They don't do it for accolades. Accolades, is that the word? They don't do it for praise. They just do it because they feel like they're supposed to do it. But the bottom line is it's so important to let your volunteers know that you're appreciated. And every once in a while, when somebody tells me I'm appreciated, I'm thinking, oh, that's really nice. And so we've got 10 ways here to do that.
All right. Number 1.
Magic number.
Numero uno. Okay. So I feel like one of the ways you can show them ways is constantly give them the bigger picture of what they're doing. And so, give them a bigger perspective about why they do what they do and how it all works. Because sometimes it's easy to get kind of just with blinders on and you just kind of do it. But it's always nice to get some thoughts and some input on the big picture.
Right. And I think one of the best ways, I know that at our church, they don't do it for the volunteers, but they do it for other reasons, is when we have baptisms tend to be a very emotional charged service when we have baptisms, and the staff is always reminding us, this is why you give to the church, is so that you can have some changed lives, and this is why you volunteer, is to see the changed lives. That's the fruits of the labor there through the baptisms, which is really the bigger picture, right? So
yeah, absolutely. And so, if you've got people volunteering, doing, overseeing your streaming video, or, just as an example, give them the bigger picture. They're reaching out, they're reaching people beyond the four walls of the church, so to speak, maybe globally. Lots of opportunities there to help them understand what they're doing really makes a difference.
mm-hmm.
I think it's important to, one component of that is stories. Make sure transformation stories, not just baptism. I think that's the biggest opportunity, but those small stories that you can share with volunteers via email or whatever avenue, to say, hey, look, here's this person, and they attended church online. They had a giant life change, and it happened because somebody pushed a button. Somebody turned on the stream. Somebody made the lights work. Whatever it is that they do.
Yeah. So important for people to get the big picture. Number two, and I this is no particular order of importance, but I just kind of threw these things together on the notes here. And by the way, you could see these notes if you go to streamingchurch.tv and hover your mouse over, I think it's resources. Is that what's on our menu there? And you'll see a drop down. And we actually have a blog, and these notes are on the blog, or will be on the blog soon, besides this podcast. So number two, and again, this is just me, but I think it makes a big difference. Provide food for your volunteers when they work. Now, you don't have to do that every time, but I mean, there's just something about food. I like people better when they give me food.
I like food. Period.
So, you don't have to do it every single time, right? But providing some snacks, everybody's different. I mean, maybe donuts aren't the answer, depending on what kind of dietary values people have. But coffee, drinks, those kind of things. Look, they're little things, but they mean a lot. It's a thought that counts.
Yes, it's an exercise of hospitality, right?
Yeah.
You have somebody over your house, you're going to offer them something to drink or eat.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, absolutely. All right. We'll move on from there. It's, just a no-brainer there. But so if you don't do that, do it once in a while or whatever. All right. So the third one here as we move along is check in with your volunteers. Now, again, we were just talking at the very beginning of the podcast that some people are like, I just do this. I don't need to worry about anything. But the truth is, checking in and connecting with your volunteers on a regular basis, again, it shows appreciation. It can help them understand what you're trying to do. Maybe they'll open up to you and share with you some things that could improve an area of ministry, or maybe even just something going on in their life. I mean, it's all about relationships, in my opinion.
It helps communicate that I'm aware of you. You're back in the children's nursery, and you're there every Sunday, and you never see anybody, and you think, oh, no one really cares. But yeah, so dropping in on somebody in the nursery, or I work in a little closet at our church, so most people don't even know I'm there.
Are you still in the closet? Because I remember years ago when I was there, we had everybody in the back by the stage there.
It's a similar room. It's out of sight. Yeah. So all the magic happens behind the scenes for the web stream stuff. It's all in a back room. So yeah. So yeah.
If you're a leader, check in with your volunteers.
Yes.
And as Steve just said, sometimes they're off in a corner somewhere, depending on what they're doing, the task that they're doing, or even if they're out in the open doing things. People are busy running around doing different things. Take some opportunities, take the time. When you share time with people, you're sharing value.
All right. And then Mike alluded to the next one, number 4 on our list.
Well, kind of.
Or did I misread it? So
Yeah,
what's
it's a
number
different
4?
kind of story, still incredibly important. That's volunteer stories, not life transformation stories.
Yes, you're right. Yes. I connected the word story. So
Both are very important in the volunteer, keeping people excited about what they're doing.
Yeah. So this is featuring volunteer stories on your blog or website or newsletter or wherever. It's kind of telling the story of, we've got Mary and she's been watching the babies for forever and she does a great job. Yeah. Or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I remember this goes back a long time, but we had Don from he was from Steubenville, Ohio at one point, who was one of our web hosts. And he was clear across the country. We're here in Tucson, and Don and his wife got involved. There were some other people that got involved, and then they were volunteers, and I remember we talked about it. I don't know if we put anything on a website about it, but we certainly talked. I think we even interviewed him one time in a service, I think.
Yeah, I think we interviewed him in the service. So as part of the service, just went and said, hey.
Yeah. But when you feature their stories, it encourages them because you've noticed them, but it also encourages other people to get involved and see what's happening. And again, it's kind of that big picture thing again, where you can see what's happening here. It's more than just a few people, but there's actually reaching out to other people, having a bigger impact.
Yeah. And that's, I think, another thing that people don't realize is they think, oh, well, we need, 3 people to pull off a service every weekend, and people don't recognize the significance of the volunteers that are involved for every weekend. Yeah. There'll be a lot of churches, I think, would be amazed that it takes 25 people to pull off a service. So 25 volunteers, or something along.
Sometimes.
It's probably in that realm when you add kids and youth, and there's a lot of volunteers involved, and most of them are not visible and aware. So,
yeah, I think that marries to number 5. If you were to do, say, a volunteer of the week or volunteer of the month, feature them on your website, give them a special parking place, and then award them, some kind of an award that means something to them, volunteer of the month, volunteer of the week, and highlighting those volunteers to keep somebody who's stuck back in the closet like Steve in front of other people who have no idea that there's somebody in a closet running digital technology and making things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is number 5, give your volunteers awards. And again, be flexible with it,
Yeah.
Yes.
They didn't give me an award, but they did post my picture during one of the services. So that's the feature volunteer stories.
Was that beware of the weirdo picture, or
I was like, hey, that's
weirdo award.
I was in the service and I saw my picture.
Picture from 1998, right? You got the same picture.
It was the one that we all get. Yeah, we're the top geeks, so they feature us. Here's all the geeks.
Steve looks the same as he has the last 30 years. So they can just take a picture from 2000 or whatever, or 1994, and he looks the same. There's nothing different about him. No beard, no long hair. Weighs the same,
And I still have many of the hairs I had when I was younger. Not all of them. It's a lot thinner.
All right. So moving along here. All right.
Number 6.
Number 6 in our little list here. I don't have my glasses on. What's number 6? Somebody tell me. I've lost my notes here.
Give your volunteers small tokens of gratitude. I guess it's we talked about awards in number 5, and this is small tokens of gratitude, like a Starbucks gift card or a movie. I got as part of I draw from examples from my volunteer exercises. I just got a movie certificate. Ironically, prior to COVID, and I didn't use it for like 3 or 4 months, and then COVID hit and I couldn't use it.
Is it expired now?
I think it has.
They're meeting now.
I think there's an important piece of this, and we used to talk about this with all of our leaders. Get to know your people well enough that you know what's an award and what would be offensive. I mean, you need to know them because sometimes you can give an award trying to be, or even the last one, you can highlight somebody. And for some people, that would be the worst thing you could ever do to them.
That's true.
It would just be painful. I don't want to talk. Don't put me on camera.
Yeah.
You know, all of these different things that people feel. And if we don't know them well enough to know what a reward would feel like for them, a great reward would be, you know, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Then we may actually give us a token of gratitude that ends up being a token of an offense.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. That's a good point. And again, it comes down to what you just said, getting to know your people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, the movie thing sounds good. That's all right. Your dog's chiming in there. Yeah, you know, I was going to look at some movie on one of these pay-per-view things, just the average movie. And it was like $30. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. And then my wife pointed out, well, if we go to the theater and get the senior citizen discount and end up buying a Coke or something, it's more money. So I'm thinking, oh, I guess we'll stay at home. So anyhow, all right, that was for free. You just mentioned a movie certificate, so I thought, oh, that made me think. All right, so we're wasting time here. So give your volunteers small tokens of gratitude. Number 7, send your volunteers a simple handwritten, and I emphasize handwritten, thank you note. Look, again, some people don't give a rip; they don't care. But a handwritten note, it means that you took the time to sit down. If I did it, nobody could read it. But if you took the time to say, hey, I'm grateful for you. Thank you for doing what you do for our church.
Yep, exactly.
A little
card, the extra mile. And nobody writes thank you cards anymore. So
nobody does.
It will stand above the fray.
Yeah, nobody does. So a little handwritten thing really makes a difference. Number 8, I'll just move on here. I put down provide your volunteers resources. So what I mean by that is, you know, whatever they're doing as a volunteer, there's resources out there that you could depending on what they do, you could send them to a conference if you had the budget for it, or you could at least provide them material or sign them up for something online, because most people, they want to get better at what they do. They want to grow in what they're doing, and you know, providing them resources to grow spiritually as well as the area that they're moving in volunteering makes a big difference.
Right, exactly. Plus, people, they're typically serving in an area that's a passion for them, and providing resources that make that area work more effectively can fire people up.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in the tech area and you get some tech toys, or if you're in the children's area and you've got some new instructional tools that are really work well or something, right. You know, it's always good.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I'm running through my mind about resources, and I think about how to maybe survey your team to say, hey, if you could have, you know, one thing to dramatically improve how you do what you do and serving kids and serving adults and serving teens or whatever it may be, to be able to begin to build that into your budgeting system to, you know, get some of those things that make what they do more fulfilling to them and to the people they're serving.
Yeah. Yeah. Make it easier for them too. You know, work smarter.
All right. So we have number 9 and 10, and then I've got a bonus for pleasure as well. It's related to 10 though. Okay. But I don't have 9 here in my notes. So what is 9?
Clear job descriptions. Make it clear that here's what you do and here's how you do it and here's how it looks when it's done really awesome. Make that clear. That's in every area, paid or volunteered in life. And it's probably one of the areas that we fail at the most, especially in the ministry world, because we just say, hey man, here's the book, go to it, go do your thing. And they're like, what do I do? And how do I do it? And what if this happens? And what if this happens? So
Boundaries.
clarity of expectations, of job description, job role, whatever you want to call that. The more clarity you can provide, the more comforting it is to people, especially those who really need to know the details to be able to do a job well.
Yeah, that's good. Helps define boundaries, helps you understand what you do, where, you know, where it stops, where somebody else can take over, or, you know, yeah, clear job description is that's very important. That's a good point, Mike.
All right. And number 10 was the celebration and recognition deal. I know that at our church, they'll dedicate a special evening and invite all the volunteers and treat them to dinner and entertainment and whatever it may be. So
you're talking a big deal here, right? Is that it's like everybody.
Used to be once a quarter or at least twice a year. And big party, catered, pull out all the punches, dancing pastors, you name it, to entertain the volunteers. There's nothing we didn't do to celebrate and make them feel valued.
Yeah. Celebration's a big point. It's a big part of life, and focusing on your volunteers and making it all about, making it all about them. I mean, sometimes we get in this mindset, it's all about serving God. Well, yes, it is, but you know, people need appreciation, and we need to acknowledge our people. Because they're so important, as we said at the very beginning of the podcast here. It's so important. It's the lifeblood of a church. And celebration. Yeah, so you can always put your minds together and come up with something creative.
Right. And here's the bonus that the bonus, it's related though, but having a kind of a morale event with maybe even a subset of your volunteer team. So for example, the tech team, all the tech volunteers, and there's not a ton of them, what they did is they hosted an event, and they reserved the axe throwing place, which I didn't know we even had in town. I was super excited about going to this. I ended up not being able to make it.
Oh, it's too bad. That's so much fun.
Yeah, they scheduled an axe throwing. You know, come to the axe throwing thing, and they'd pay for your axe throwing, and you get to throw an axe at a target. And
they have a picture of the pastor on the wall or something, and they throw the.
I don't think so.
Okay.
So anyway, I was super jazzed about it because I'd never been.
Tech director or the worship director.
Axe throwing. So for the people that know, there's actually these places where you can learn how to throw an axe, and you throw it at a target, right? And I've seen videos where it's bounced back and hit people, but I mean, there's a
world competition group, and it actually, our local one here hosts that once a year.
I know lumberjacks do it. I didn't know everybody does it. Oh, interesting.
Oh yeah,
so
it's big.
I'm not saying axe throwing in particular, but a special get it out of your bubble, out of your environment, and do something fun kind of a thing. And it's definitely optional for everybody. Go to Top Golf, work out something.
Yeah.
We did that once. We went to Top Golf as a team and had a great time.
Yeah. I remember I was managing this Christian radio station back in the early 80s, and I decided to throw a big pool party. Back then I had a homeowners association with a big pool that nobody used, and so we decided to have a pool party, and we had a blast. We had everybody from the station there. This is Christian radio, and afterwards I had people come up to me afterwards and say, I had no idea you were so much fun, Phil. Like, okay. I was so intense back then. I was like, we had a mission. I was so intense, and I realized back then I got to let people know that I'm not this intense all the time. So fun little events will really help build relationship there again. Again, it's all about
Yeah,
relationships.
show appreciation.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, good. So we're done here, right?
Yes, we did 10 and a bonus.
10 and a bonus,
10
man.
and a
That's pretty
bonus.
impressive.
Yeah, it's really impressive, right? So look, if you want to be, if you've got something to add, I'm talking to our listeners and viewers here. We'd love to hear from you. And if you'd like to be on our podcast sometime, or you know somebody that might be a guest that we can interview on the podcast, send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv. We always love to hear from people. And if you have something in an area of ministry that you maybe do that you think could help other people if they heard from you, again, we'd love to interview you and have you on, and so support@streamingchurch.tv. That's one of our companies. And you can go to mychurchdaily.com, which I said at the beginning, easy for you to say, the beginning of the podcast, mychurchdaily.com. Check it out. And you too could maybe have a flash briefing every day on Alexa. And it's a great tool. All right, guys. Thank you. Thank you, Michael Gray.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you, Steve Lacy.
Glad to be here.
And most of all, thank you for our viewers and listeners to the Church Solutions Podcast. My name is Phil Thompson. Please take care of yourself. We'll catch you again next time.